With the Citi Double Cash Card, you get 1% cash back when you buy and 1% as you pay. That's like the joy of discovering the last donut.
Ooh.
And it has your name on it, literally, in chocolate sprinkly things.
No way.
Double the love with the Citi Double Cash Card. Apply now at Citi.com/doublecash.
Good Friday morning, everybody. We made it. The weekend is here. Glad you are listening and watching wherever you are. Trey Wingo here with Mike Golic and Mike Golic Jr. Golic and Wingo on ESPN Radio and ESPN2, presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. And, of course, if you want to tweet at us, because that's what we do these days, tweet us through the 1-800-Flowers.com Twitter feed. Hey, guys, happy Friday.
It is Friday. I know you're happy Friday, your first week of the early wake-up call, getting through the first week. You're a happy man, aren't you?
Friday. To say. We made it. We made it.
He's just this young kid, right? Just doesn't understand, does he, Mike?
Bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, coming at this. A lot of thriving on energy and enthusiasm this week, but Trey came over this morning on First and Last and already told me the thing he's looking forward to most in the world this afternoon.
I do like this.
Oh, it's the greatest thing in the world. I used to do it a lot on Sundays, but when you turn on the TV,
right,
and you lie on the couch and you start watching sports, like I'll probably be watching Tiger this afternoon,
right,
and you just tend to sort of drift.
Take a nap.
Just drift away.
It's a natural nap. You did,
exactly.
And I'm with you. And how so much to watch. You had Tiger yesterday. You had NFL last night. We won't talk about the one college game last night. That'll be stricken from the records, except it's in off the top, unfortunately.
Good thing there was no betting.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And then I'm so looking forward to all the college conference championship games starting tonight with USC and Stanford. So you'll have plenty of time on the couch to drift off. There's no doubt about it.
The unplanned nap is the best because on the back you get one of the greatest intoxicants known to sleep, which is that delirious wake up. No idea where you are, covered in drool, in a location that's a little bit unfamiliar because it's not your bed. You wake up with that kind of high and it carries you through the
Then
weekend.
you go eat.
Yes.
That's just great.
Yes. So what we're thinking, just give me the Beat Boys and free my soul. I want to get lost in your rock and roll.
There you go.
Drift away.
There you go.
That's what we got.
Well done.
But that's in a few hours. We got stuff to do and stuff to talk about. Listen, this is going to be a great weekend in sports, as you were saying. College football conference championship games starting tonight. We've got huge NFL games. The playoffs are getting here. We're going to get the full slate of Week 13 games, and we've got Tiger Woods back in action. The guests we have coming up today, we've got David Pollack to talk about what he expects in the college football championship games coming up at 7:30. Michael Wilbon of PTI will join us to talk about what he thinks and what you think about the NFL and the $100 million.
A little more news going forward with that with Malcolm Jenkins.
Absolutely.
We'll get into.
We'll get into that. Nota Begay, we'll talk to him.
Well, we're going to have fun with that with famous roommates.
Because not only is he an NBC sports analyst and former PGA golfer, but he was a roommate of Tiger Woods.
Oh, we got some good ones out there.
In Stanford. Katie Nolan will join us for the first time doing the Katie Nolan experience.
There you go.
And, of course, we're gonna Tebow.
Yes, we are.
Do a little Tebowing.
Yeah, we're going to Tebow.
He will join us as well.
Call it? What do you call that other thing?
Dab?
That Dabo. We're not going to Dabbo.
No,
we're going to
Tebow.
I'm just kidding. It's a joke.
Are you kidding?
It's a joke.
You know him. Was he kidding?
Please tell me you're kidding.
I was kidding. Oh, my gosh.
I mean, you
guys got to get used to my humor. You'd think you'd know it by now.
That's why I'm asking.
Well, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't. The humor has to be funny.
Oh,
wow.
See, there we go.
Happy Friday, everybody.
Are we driving in the car again all of a sudden?
Isn't this a spot that we did already? All right, listen, let's move on, and let's get you going with...
It's time for Off the Top.
Whether you like it or not, it's just beginning.
With Golic and Wingo.
And here we go with Off the Top. Cavs continue to roll on. LeBron James, 24 points, 12 assists, as the Cavs won their 10th straight with a win over Atlanta.
It's their second longest winning streak since LeBron rejoined the Cavs in 2014. LeBron James, what is he, 50? That's what his body should feel like for all the games he's played. He's having one of his best starts to a season in his career. He's averaging at least 28 points, 8 rebounds, and 8 assists through November for the first time in his career. So we always talk about, the demise when they're not getting it going early, and Boston was on that incredible run, and we're like, the changing of the guard is happening. That's why there's 82 games, and you get a chance to settle in as the Cavs have now won 10 in a row.
It's been a weird revival. We're obviously talking a lot about Tiger Woods being back as a guy who's an older player but who suffered a lot of injuries. With LeBron James, we went through that lull after those MVP seasons in Miami and the championship in Cleveland where I think we've sort of underappreciated or at least undercovered what he's been doing. But now because of the advanced age, because of all the things surrounding their offseason, I think we're paying attention again to just what a mutant this guy is. I watched him block some guy into the G League last night. Yeah. He has been not only stellar numbers-wise, but just crass and offensive with the way he's actually gone out and performed. So to go out and be able to be that disrespectful at this age for LeBron James while we have all these other teams making moves and young players coming up is insane.
Well, the other thing, too, is, look, LeBron is in what, year 15?
15.
Okay.
Yeah, he turns he turns 33 at the end of this month.
By the way, only 33, which is ridiculous when you think about it.
But you think of all the miles on his legs already and how we're talking about players who have been around for a while, how they seem to be, finding that fountain of youth a little more today.
But the numbers he's putting up in year 15 and the way he's playing in year 15 are like Jordan, Kobe in their prime. It's amazing to see what he's doing 15 years into the league and the numbers he's putting up. It's absolutely staggering. All right, we continue with
Off the Top.
Sorry, guys. Number 3, Michigan State beat number 5, Notre Dame, allowing the Big Ten to claim one notable win in the Big Ten ACC Challenge, which was won by the ACC 11-3.
Yeah, whatever. Listen, quite honestly, Michigan State took it to them right away. It was a 20-point halftime lead. Notre Dame did cut it at times. I saw it, 6 or 7 in the second half, but Michigan State, to their credit, wouldn't let them get any closer, and then, won by a healthy margin, 81-63. They had an edge in just about every facet of this game, plus 10 edge in offensive rebounds, led 20-6 differential in second chance points. They were just getting it done. We thought this would be obviously a better matchup, and we'll see where these two teams end up down the road. It is the beginning of the season, but a nice commanding win for Michigan State in this one. Even though Notre Dame kind of got back into the second half, there was never really that feel like, Michigan State's going to give this one away or Notre Dame's going to take it. Michigan State kept in control.
Depth, size, and the ability to work in transition all killed Notre Dame at the beginning. They couldn't get anything going in the paint. A team that usually the hallmark of Bray teams is being great shooters from beyond the arc struggled early with that and gave up, I think, more points in transition against Michigan State in the first half of the first half than they had most of the rest of the games this season.
They average through the first 6 games 5.8 transition points giving up. They gave up 19.
Yeah, it was that kind of night. So congratulations to Michigan State and Tom Izzo on their November national championship.
Woo! Wow. Did you see why I didn't bet?
Yeah.
You see why I didn't bet?
We'll see you guys in the tournament. Those jerseys were trash,
Tom, friend of the show, you just smoked them.
No, I love Tom. I love the accordion. Those are great. Yeah. By the way, we'll get to the roommate thing. Him sneaky my favorite former roommate.
Yeah, we'll get to that one. That's
on
a good
the list.
One.
I feel like that could have been a Bash Brothers duo for the ages.
Agree with you on that
Won't give that one away.
No. Strong though.
Notre Dame was out rebounded 42-21.
I think we covered that. We can move on.
There you go. Okay, just want to.
Hey, we'll do what every bad team in a conference does: is just chant the name of the conference when they do something good. This is for you, Kentucky and Vanderbilt in the SEC.
By the way, 21 rebounds, the fewest in a game for the Irish since 2011.
I thought we moved on.
We are.
What do you do?
Off the top.
Just wanted to let it marinate.
Yeah, I bet you did.
He's back, ladies and gentlemen, at least for a round. He's back for a round. After a 300-day layoff, Tiger Woods shot a 3-under 69, and were it not for 2 flub chips, he might be there with a 5-under 67. He looked great.
Yeah, he did. Tied for 8th, 3 shots back from the leader, Tommy Fleetwood, who, oh, by the way, looks really good as well. His 3-under is a score is better than 3 of the top 8 players in the official world rankings right now. He had 5 birdies. He had, and what had been his a hallmark for him is how much under par he would be in par 5s, but he was 1 over in the par 5s. That's where he had, a second shot that just missed on one of the par 5s and ended up having a bad chip there and errant drive on another. But it was fun to watch him, and I'm sure we were all watching for is he wincing? Is he grabbing the back? How is he walking up a hill just to see if he looked good? And he did look good.
I told you guys where I'm at on this. Call me on Sunday.
Oh, boy. Seriously? No love at all?
Can't we just enjoy the moment?
No, listen.
Can't you just revel in the fact that he looked like he wasn't, coming out of surgery?
Yeah.
I'm happy for the guy.
Are you?
Don't get me wrong.
I don't feel like you
sound
are.
like you
know
are.
what it is? We're all just thirsty for this. This is about us. We're just over here trying to thirst trap Tiger Woods into being the guy again that he was.
Did your thirst get quenched a little bit yesterday in watching that? No?
Not a drop.
Oh, you millennials.
You're dead inside.
You really
just so
are.
you know, you're
I'm
dead
just
inside.
saying, you know what? I know what Tiger expects out of himself. I know the guy that he used to be. I'm not going to belittle him by making this the thing that gets me all hot and bothered anymore. I know where we've been in the past.
All I'm saying is that when Tiger was asked about his expectations for this tournament, he said, I have none.
Yeah.
So he doesn't know where he is. The thing that I thought was really cool about this, and we'll get into this a lot throughout the show, how many people were tweeting in saying, isn't it so great
to see
Michael Phelps,
Steph Curry,
absolutely, they're all like
Bo Jackson.
Yes,
that was pretty cool.
You're wrong.
Yeah, you're wrong.
You were on the wrong side of history.
You're going to have a
Junior.
really short appearance on our show today.
Yeah, just get out.
Thank God.
Get out. Actually, that's a win for him.
Yeah, really.
You're sticking around all show,
exactly
buddy.
Right.
You are here all show.
My God, no.
Yeah. So we didn't play that quite the right way.
We did. That's my fault.
That's my fault. Stay here for a little longer. We're going to take naps later
There's
on the
donut
show.
Yeah.
And we finish
Off the top
with the Dallas Cowboys. Finally got their offense going on Thursday Night Football, destroying Washington 38-14. Des Bryant, by the way, with a touchdown catch, went up and caught it. 72nd of his Cowboy career, breaking the mark he had with Hall of Famer Bullet Bob Hayes.
How about that? So Dez has 72, Hayes 71, Jason Witten. It's amazing. The top two are still active. Witten 67, Michael Irvin 65. Make no mistake, they did this one on the ground. Dak threw 22 times, completed 11, just over 100 yards. Hurt his hand, had to go in and get it x-rayed. They ran the ball 42 times. They controlled the ball for 32 and a half minutes. The O-line looked more like the O-line that we have seen as they're working through their injuries, getting Zach Martin back out of the concussion protocol. Tyron Smith had missed some time being back. And so they looked like that team of old. Again, not the passing game there, but the running game, and defensively, they had a fantastic pass rush with 4 sacks.
Yeah, and listen, that Washington offensive line, conversely, is about as beat up as you can ask. Right. Morgan Moses, their right tackle, who had already been basically playing with no legs, got his legs taken out again last night, got carted off, and felt bad for that guy. But if you are that defense, you've got to be a little encouraged, because without Sean Lee, they've been just as much of a disaster as the offense has been dealing with their injury carousel in all of this. But a big night, the Alfred Morris revenge game against his old team, beginning to go off, felt good for him. Dez turning back the clock a bit. Leading up to that game, all I had heard about was the Cowboys thinking about maybe moving on from Dez this offseason.
Dez couldn't separate.
He's got a big number next year.
That's right. That's exactly right. And give a little love to the defense. As we mentioned, they had 4 sacks. DeMarcus Lawrence had 2 of them. He now leads the NFL in sacks. So that he's a guy who we know that side of the ball has gone through some suspensions, especially on that D-line, he being one of them. They're rushing the passer pretty well. At least, again, last night, do you take it with a bit of grain of salt because it was an offensive line that was injured a bit? But still, you're playing who's on the field, and they dominated.
And that was indeed
off the top.
And let's stay there talking a little more about the Dallas Cowboys here, because all your points are accurate. But at the end of the day, this was a team that had lost 3 straight games. They had looked like they didn't know what they were doing, either on offense or defense. And then they come out with a lot of help from Washington in the 4 turnovers.
4 turnovers, yeah.
They scored 38 points in a game. They had scored 22 in their previous 3. So the thing that, if you're a Cowboys fan, the thing that gives you a little optimism is that they finally figured out a way to get the running game going without Ezekiel Elliott. Because even when Zeke was in there and they were put up big numbers against San Francisco or Kansas City or Washington the first time they played him in the rain, when you play the Cowboys, if they're going to win, it's death by 1,000 paper cuts, okay? They don't have a ton of chunk plays in their offense. They don't. They'll get occasionally Terrence Williams will get sprung for a big play, or they'll get Zeke loose on a screen, and that'll work. But the way the Cowboys are built to win is 4, 3, 6, 8, 7, 5, 4, 6 yards on the ground per play. In fact, I think on the first touchdown drive of the second half, they had 1 passing play on what was an 8 or 9 play drive. So basically, this was the Cowboys getting back to mauling people. They got their offensive line back, and our big man, Damian Woody, said it was a thing of beauty.
Sometimes as an offensive lineman, your pride is challenged. You get called out. Internally, that's probably happened. But what you saw from the Dallas Cowboys tonight, they literally imposed their will on the Washington Redskins, up front. Now, the Washington Redskins helped them out with all the turnovers, but in the end, it was the Dallas Cowboys offensive line, to me, that was the MVP of tonight's game, because Dak didn't have the best of nights. He threw for 2 touchdowns, but he was really pedestrian as far as yards, but it was the 42 42 rushing attempts by the Dallas Cowboys. That was the difference in this game.
It certainly was. And, it's interesting. I was talking about this with Junior on First and Last, Senior. You look at the box score. Let's say you didn't watch much of the game last night. You wake up and say, "Well, Cowboys rolled them." The games are really interesting because one thing can change a game completely. Just because one thing happens doesn't mean everything's going to happen in sequence after that. The second drive for Washington, they were driving right down the field, and Kirk Cousins, by the way, who played remarkable in this game. Don't look at the box. Don't look at the numbers.
Right.
I mean, the score. Look at how he played. He was not the reason they lost this contest, even though there was an interception in there. But they were driving down the field on their second drive. The Cowboys, I think, had 3 and outs to start. They couldn't get anything going, and they're inside the 20-yard line, and he hits Jamison Crowder on a perfect little seam route. And it bounces right off Crowder's hands and goes into Heath for the interception. If they had gone and scored early, it would have been really easy for the Cowboys to go, man, here we go again. We're on our way. That play, I think, really changed the game, and also the punt muff. It kept Dallas in the game until they finally said, hey, damn it, we can do this again.
And Dallas gets a punt return of their own by Switzer for 83 yards. That was a thing of beauty. And Mike, my son, will make you happy and make the Dallas offensive line our players with style. Brought to you by JCPenney. Take the JCPenney Holiday Challenge and find surprising gifts at surprising prices. Get everything on your list for less than you think. JCPenney. So let me ask you, there was so much talk, and you had to love this. Last year, the offensive line talk was the sexy talk everywhere. The Cowboys O-line, Oakland's O-line, the anchors on that Tennessee offensive line with Conklin and Lewan and a couple other offensive lines. This year, it started out not good for the Dallas line. The Oakland line still trying to find their way. What's been for the Dallas line? Why so much struggle early, and why are they getting back into it now? I know injury will play some part in that.
Injury plays some part in the late. Struggle early just has to do with continuity. Like losing Ronald Leary and Doug Free this offseason mattered, and I said that going into the year when it came to the Zeke suspension. Serving that at the beginning of the season would have been perfect timing because the first 3 or 4 games we saw Chaz Green at that left guard spot wasn't exactly working. La'el Collins still getting used to communication with Zach Martin. And then they settle on Jonathan Cooper at left guard, 4 or 5 games in. And then he gets a couple of games under his belt where he starts feeling good. And, oh, by the way, 6-7 games into the season, this offensive line starts to look more like itself. Right around the time you would have been getting a fresh-legged Zeke Elliott back. So instead, you go through those growing pains with Zeke, and you remove them when they're finally feeling good, and then you suffer the injuries. So now it's getting back for that group being on the field again at the same time because what you lost in Ronald Leary and Doug Free is certainly talented players, veteran presence, and everything else. Ronald Leary having a great season for the Broncos.
One of the only ones on that O-line,
yes,
too.
One of the very few, but you lost continuity, and it's like the defensive backfield where communication is so paramount and the game of inches of knowing where my buddy's going to put his hat, knowing where my help's going to come from in this protection. For a team that likes to run as much zone as they do, for a team that's faced with protecting for a passer like Dak who can make plays with his feet, who can move around a little bit, all of those things get shown in the light a lot more when you've changed the parts up a little bit. And the only thing you can do to get that back is time, and that's why the offseason program and the new CBA always get talked about.
Here's what amazes me, and I don't know if we've ever seen this before. Brett, maybe you can find this out. Brett, doing our research, is that offensive line has legitimately has 4 first rounders.
Yep.
Tyron Smith, first rounder. Jonathan Cooper was a first rounder with Arizona.
Yep.
Frederick's obviously a first rounder at center, and Zach a first rounder. And La'el Collins, had he not had the issues he had in college, he was a first round. They could literally have had 5 first rounders, but they do have 4. I don't know if I've ever seen that before.
Yeah.
Where you have that 4 starting first round offensive linemen on an offensive line. It's amazing.
Yeah. Well, the thing about that, too, and we've talked about this a lot this year on NFL Primetime and NFL Live, we all like the flashy little toys. Ooh, look, quarterback, wide receiver, runner, fancy, shiny things that go fast. Every team that's playing well this year has a good offensive line. Every team that isn't playing well this year has a bad offensive line. And nobody wants to acknowledge the big uglies. Big guy, but I will.
Ugly.
I will, because that's how it works. What was Minnesota's bugaboo last year? Their offensive line was horrible.
And all new.
Yeah.
All new.
Completely new offensive line. They are dominating. It's a third-string quarterback in Case Keenum and really a third-string running back.
Yeah, and then how about the Rams?
Yes.
Doing the same thing as well.
Andrew Whitworth over there.
You're Sullivan at center, right?
And then look at Philadelphia. Okay? They lose a Hall of Fame left tackle in Jason Peters, but they're finding a way to make it work. Kelsey on the inside at center is one of the most mobile centers out there. Every single team, and even the Saints with Ryan Ramczyk, the kid out of Wisconsin.
Yeah, and
he's playing really well.
On the left side, Armstead.
Teron Armstead, yeah.
I know he got nicked up
He's
again.
been in and out with injury. Zach Streif I saw just finally going on IR for the rest of the season.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, one of their right tackles, Max Unger, one of the better centers that kind of goes under talked about at this point. So I agree. The game this weekend, Sunday Night Football, is honestly going to highlight what this means for teams because you're going to have that Eagles offensive line that's played really well all season, and on the other side, you're going to watch the Seahawks, who have, as an organizational level, made the decision a long time ago that is not a position group that they put a ton of stock in.
You know, the interesting thing about that is when they won the Super Bowl that year, they had the most cap money that year invested in their offensive line. And since then, they've had the least. And I don't understand, right?
I'm with you.
One of the things is, look, they thought they could have a breakout offensive player in Jimmy Graham. They gave away Unger, who's now in New Orleans.
That's exactly right.
Their center, and that's really hurt them. But I'm really surprised that Tom Cable, the offensive line coach, assistant head coach out there, and the rest of that staff of the organization hasn't realized, guys, we got to fix this. We got to fix this. You know what I mean? And that's the biggest issue for them going forward. Brett, you've got that.
Brett, so they are the only team with four first-rounders.
The only team that has 4 first-rounders starting on the offensive line.
The Dallas Cowboys.
Cowboys. I've never seen it before.
It's insane.
I mean, it really is just amazing.
And it's one thing to have that number, Jonathan Cooper, because the other ones, they've been all pros and everything else. Right. Jonathan Cooper, a lot of injuries, has been around on 3 or 4 teams in his career.
He was part of the Chandler Jones trade that went to New England and Arizona.
Now starting to finally play like a first-rounder. This has been his best
life out there.
This has been his best ball by far. And if anyone, you could have asked for a guy that I got to know during training before the combine and the pro days, one of the best guys out there. So seeing him have this career renaissance has been really nice.
You know, it's really interesting. We're having this talk about the Cowboys. We're talking about the running game. We're talking about the offensive line and the defense. One guy we haven't talked about yet is Dak Prescott and what we saw and what we didn't see last night. We'll get to that a little bit later and whether or not we think he can find a way to sustain now that they've got a little bit of offensive going. We'll get into that a little bit later on Golic and Wingo. But coming up, the feelings were back on Thursday.
Except for Junior.
He's dead inside.
He is.
At a very young age, which makes me sad. But those tingly feelings of, is it possible that we might be seeing another renaissance of El Tigre on the golf course, and can it continue?
Hey girl, have you done something new with your scales? Using new moisturizer? Nice. It really brings out the hazel in your eyes. Oh, hold on. Are you using whitening strips too? Your fangs look good, girl. Really good.
A really charming snake charmer? Surprising. What's not surprising? How much you could save by switching to Geico.
Wait, what? Have you been doing Pilates too?
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
We continue here on Golic and Wingo, Trey Wingo, Mike Golic, and Mike Golic Jr. And look, it's basically, as we said yesterday, a glorified member guest, and it's his member guest. But it had been 300 days since we saw Tiger Woods play a competitive round of golf. And after all the injuries and everything else, it was really nice to see that guy be able to do those kind of things on the golf course. 3 under 69. Tiger Woods was in the zone yesterday and is brought to you by AutoZone. Get in the zone, AutoZone. You know, it's not an actually sanctioned PGA Tour event.
Right.
You know, if he wins it, it doesn't count toward his 72 total or 79 total, that he has already. Mm-hmm. But it means something to see that guy back and basically swinging with the big stick. You know, his irons were always going to be good, but the release on the driver and the 3-wood and the hybrid when he had to hit those kind of clubs, that was the thing that I thought was really cool to see.
Oh, I agree, because when he was coming off the other injuries and trying to come back, his drive would be awful. Then he's always playing out of trouble, trying to catch up, and the frustration level grows and grows. Now, there was some frustration yesterday. You heard a couple of choice words, and the microphones are a little too close.
That's how you know Tiger's back, by the way,
That's exactly right. That's exactly right, that he cares enough to use the language that he did. Again, I don't care about that, but there was some frustration there. But I'm with you, Trey. He was smoking the drive, smoking them, and putting himself at least in a good position out there. He did trip up on the par 5s going 1 over, and that he had been so far ahead of the PGA average when he was playing well of how well he played those par 5s. So that was a little bugaboo for him yesterday. But all in all, I mean, you had to just like what you saw, and then you just wait to see, can he do it again? Then can he do it again? Then can he do it again? But you have to start somewhere, Mike, and the other starts when he's come back haven't been as good. Sometimes they have, but then the consistency here, it was a good start.
It was a strong start for him, and to your point, when Tiger Woods is cursing himself out in the third person, we can all feel good about where he's at. Mm-hmm. And I sort of mocked us all for being very thirsty for the success of Tiger Woods, but the more I thought about it, and I kicked it around this morning, I can't think of another athlete who's still involved enough. Obviously, Tiger spent a lot of time away from golf in recent years, but still involved in the sport. I can't think of another athlete that I would want to succeed on the level of Tiger Woods, because we know how high those damn highs were. And if we can get back near that, or at least get near enough, I don't even know if I need him to get over the mountaintop. Winning a major is pie in the sky at this point. But, man, that thought of seeing him back there, I said that's what'll get me there, but I can't even think of another guy that's really close as far as who now I would like to see return to the height of their powers the way I'd like to see Tiger.
Well, that's the thing. Look, I think we just want to taste. I think we all want to believe that it's possible again. I mean, back surgeries, knee surgeries, all the away from the course issues. Yeah. You just want to believe. Everyone wants a comeback story, right? That's one of the guys I'm pulling for this biggest weekend is Josh Gordon. I really am.
Right.
Kid's been through so much. He's 26 years old. He's going to get a start after everything he's been through. Everyone likes a comeback. Everyone likes, this guy was here, then he crashed, and can he do it again? And just what you saw on Thursday afternoon in the Bahamas, again, at a glorified member guest, you got the idea that maybe it's possible. And a lot of fans, and we talked about it, Michael Phelps and Steph Curry were tweeting in, Bo Jackson. Everybody felt that way. And even Tiger Woods said he had the adrenaline, and he felt it like it's possible again.
It was not only nice to get the first round out of the way, but it's also, I'm only 3 shots out of the lead. And so to be able to put myself there after not playing for, 10 months or so, in the neighborhood of that, it was nice to feel the adrenaline out there. Obviously, with my back better, my training sessions have been much better. My strength is up, and I didn't feel tired at all, which was great.
You can get the little tells out of him and talking about how he felt better and stuff, but he did mention in there, I'm only a few shots off the lead. So there is that little spark again with him. Again, it's one day, and he said all the things you want. Back felt good, in shape, training has felt good. Because this is a guy, again, these are the amount of days in between starts 4 different times in his career. 143 days, 253 days, this one 300 days, and the longest one 465 days. You add that up, that comes out to a little over 3 years of nothing. Of downtime, of rehabbing, injuries, trying to get yourself back to play a sport they'll never be at the level he was before, but that a competitive level again. But I liked that little line in there. I really did. Of I'm 3 strokes off the lead.
It's nice, but it worries me. Like, that worries me about Tiger because, you've come back from injury before, and you understand that there's little moments along the way, little benchmarks that you clear through the rehab process, getting back onto the field, that are great, that feel good, and he's gone through some of those now. But the worrisome part is trying to be yourself again too soon. And to your point, you saw that little bit of fire. It's got to be hard for a guy that wasn't just good, wasn't just great, was all time, to not kind of snap back into the mode of, I can do this all again. Because if you try and do too much too soon, that's the easy recipe to end up right back where he's been.
And for those of you, because we get this all the time, Trey, is people say, when he would come back, tired of Tiger. Tiger isn't the story anymore. Quit talking about Tiger. Tiger, is not, what he was. You all have to understand, if Tiger is in any tournament, the ratings are up
exponentially.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So what Tiger means, for all those that kind of want to poo-poo it, and we don't know if he will. We don't know if he will. But take it one tournament, one day, one round at a time. But if he's there on weekends, man, you want to talk about sponsors and networks that will be doing cartwheels for the fact that he will be around and what he'll do for ratings.
Look, that's the whole thing. And we can go through some of these ratings with these great young stars that we're talking about. Justin Thomas winning the PGA Championship. Jordan Spieth, that amazing comeback at the Open Championship. And they're great story, and they're great players, and they're better players than Tiger right now. That's not a debate. It's not a debate that they're better. But at the end of the day, Tiger Woods is a magnet. He's a magnet for people that aren't golf fans. Like, golf fans know who Jordan Spieth is and Justin Thomas and Brooks Koepka and DJ and John Rahm and all these. They know this. But Tiger is a guy that when people don't follow the sport, they, oh, is Tiger playing? Let's go watch Tiger. And you can say that that's not true, but you'd be kidding yourself. And that's exactly why the numbers are there for all these other guys to make this money, is because he did what he did, which rolled into all these television contracts and the sponsorships that you guys are talking about.
You got a great poll question up. You want to throw that out?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Again, because we understand a lot of people don't like golf. So Tiger Woods' great start means something, everything, nothing, or golf is boring.
So he put it up. Again, he's at Wingo's. That's Wingo with a Z. You can do it at Golic and Wingo as well. Yep. I'm going to retweet it at ESPN Golic, and I'm sure you will.
I'll think about it.
M. Golic Jr. JR 57. So you retweet it as well?
I've had enough golf talk for the day.
Oh, well, you're like Stanzik. Stanzik already has put in his... You know, Stanzik, you want to tell America what you voted?
I was telling Mike to say it, that he already voted golf is boring.
No,
it's millennials.
Yeah. How'd you end up with the Z, by the way?
It's a long and convoluted story that I have no answer to.
How'd you end up with the JR 57? And I mean, I know how you did.
I was going to say, you can tell everyone how I ended up with the Junior.
Well, I understand that.
Pretty vain.
That's a lot. That's a lot in your handle.
We've had this discussion forever. You got to change that handle. You got to just shorten it somehow, some way. It's like 47. Although now that it's 280, it's not as big of a deal.
That's true. That's a good point.
280 Twitter. This is basically a drop in the bucket.
220, 221, whatever it takes. Boom. Thank you very much. 1983, relating to the audience.
We're so old.
Please, God, get out of this.
Okay, coming up, we'll talk more about Tiger with his college teammate Nota Begay. Will join us a little bit in about 90 minutes or so. And we'll also talk a little bit about what the game last night means for Dak Prescott. Did we see enough to feel like, hey, it's all going to be okay, or are there still major concerns? That's all ahead, Mike. We roll on. Golic and Wingo on ESPN Radio and ESPN2, presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests will join us via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line, and among the guests we'll have coming up David Pollack to talk about the college football weekend, which is a huge one with the conference championships. We'll have Michael Wilbon in the 8 o'clock hour, so you and him can settle your differences. Nota Begay will join us here, Tiger's former teammate at Stanford, to talk about what he saw in Tiger Woods' round. Katie Nolan will stop by just to make us feel better about ourselves. And Tim Tebow will also be here to talk about the college football championship weekend.
A real quick tweet. Mike, Danny wants to know why you have earbuds in your ears. I was going to tweet back to say so you can hear the show, but I didn't want to be that mean.
Yeah, everyone assumes I'm listening to something else. Like, these plug into the table right here so I can hear everyone else talking on this. They're just like your guys, except it's not clear molded to my ear, and it's highly visible.
And why don't you have the ones clear molded to your ear?
Because I lost them.
Yeah.
By the way, it would make sense with some of the things that come out of your mouth if you weren't listening to the show.
Wow.
There you go. Okay, but anyway, let's go back to the Cowboys here for a second. Because, they won. It was 38-14. But you really saw two different Dak Prescotts last night. He started out 1 for 6, and through that first 1 for 6, he looked completely flustered. He looked out of it. He looked like he couldn't find a rhythm. And then once they got up and got the running game going, he was a totally different guy, making stick throws to Terrence Williams, to Dez Bryant, and then the one, the go-get-it ball in the end zone for Dez. It really seemed like it took the running game working for him to realize, I can do this again.
So is that good or bad?
I don't know.
I mean, that's the thing. I mean, if he has, and we saw how well it worked with Zeke in the backfield and that offensive line, because you'd love him to be. It was 11-22 last night. Now, he did have a hand injury. He had to go get x-rayed. It was 11-22 for 102 yards. So, because that's what you have to hope for, Mike. You want to be able to, while you don't want to have to rely on it because you love their running game, if he needs to throw you back into a game, you want to feel good that he can do that.
You do, and I think a lot of this gets painted on Dak, but listen, the running game being good helps those receivers get open downfield when they can take some of these play-action shots. I thought Dallas's struggles were good in a way for this team because they're not going to be this bad again next year when it's healthy and there's no more Zeke suspension over the top. We assume that this is only going to be a team that gets better as this young core grows, but it was at least going to make them address, I think, some of the deficiencies on offense. We talked about it. Dez last night was great, but that's still a decision they've got to make going into next year.
Well, it's not only that, but I think that you're right, by the way. They do have to make a decision about Dez because he hadn't been really that guy since 2014 when he had 16 touchdown catches. The other issue I think Zeke has, he covers a myriad of issues that the Cowboys maybe tend not to focus on because they can do that other thing. They really don't have a lot of team speed, especially on the wide receiver. Their wide receivers are Dez, who's not a speed guy, Cole Beasley, who's a total slot guy, and Terrence Williams, who's a loper at best. They don't have a lot of receivers that can get separation.
And throw Jason Witten in that mix, too, who's basically running routes standing still.
Well, he is, because you look at this
he's still running
But
them.
you look at the new crop, though, of tight ends. They are the athletic ones. Njoku, the kid from Cleveland, Evan Ingram from the Giants. These are mismatched guys. Witten's not that anymore, but he's unbelievably reliable. But to your point, Trey, they aren't the speedsters. And let's also understand that by our FPI, our Football Power Index, their ability to make the playoffs only jumped to about 6% or 5 or 6%.
2, I think it went up to 5 or 6.
So here's the thing: understand now, they're only going to be a wild card. There's 2 wild cards, and I'm going to give you the losses of teams that are not division leaders.
For them,
So you have Carolina has 3 losses, Atlanta has 4 losses, Detroit has 5 losses, Seattle has 4 losses. I mean, those are the teams, and they only play one of those teams. They do play Seattle a little later in the season, where they can try and help themselves.
But they've already played Atlanta and lost to Atlanta.
Look, exactly right. So they have a long haul to make it there.
If you're a Cowboy fan, you really understand this season is probably lost, but you want to see whether or not the team can find a way to find different ways to win without Zeke. And they did that last night, although it took them a little time to get it rolling. But the 11-22, I mean, it really was a very strange game for Dak because he looked completely lost until they got that running game going. And then he was like, oh, I can do this again. The throw to Witten for the touchdown was a stick one. He had one to Dez to keep a drive alive. So when you saw him set his feet and just gun it in there, you're like, where's that been for the last few weeks?
Yeah, and I think quickly to Mike's point, I think that one of the biggest changes from next year is they need speed on the offense.
All the way across those wide receivers.